And then there's the kind of troubling fact that like even if passing tip videos, some of them that I've seen have kind of aired on the opposite angle and have just really stressed the like, as long as you have confidence and you walk into a place and you know what you're doing, then you know everything will be fine. And like that's the really the number one thing that counts in terms of passing. And I have like mixed reaction to this. Like on the one hand, like yeah, confidence is great. If you have genuine confidence, like awesome, good for you. Like go out and show it to the world. Even if you don't have confidence, like faking confidence can like be a helpful tool sometimes. Like either in terms of passing or sometimes in terms of that whole fake it till you make it dynamic. And like you kind of go out with a certain amount of like swagger and stuff, you'll eventually learn to ultimately feel it and internalize that. So I mean, I think that works sometimes. So it's not that confidence is a bad thing. It's just that again, I think that tends towards the whole attributing too much responsibility to ourselves angle. Like we would like to believe that confidence will do everything for you, but like bottom line, it doesn't always work. Like there are certain people who are just able to pass better than others, and like whether that's their mode of presentation or like physical features, like this is rough and it sucks, and like but you know life isn't fair. So it's just like I think it can be misleading and a little bit like almost tending towards victim blaming. I'm not saying that anyone intends to do that, but I think that that can be the effect. I think that can be the effect when we're implying that we're fully responsible for whether we pass and that confidence is enough to do it, because like it's not going to be like it's not going to work for everybody. It's not going to be enough for everybody. And I mean, I say this as somebody who like totally owns that like I have a fair amount of passing privilege. I pass a fair amount of the time for somebody who's not on testosterone. I mean, I'm really lucky in that regard. Like, but it's just it's not a 100% solution. So I kind of wish that maybe like when we make passing videos, like we should be a little more conscientious of that and like a little bit more, just responsive to the fact that we're all coming from different places, and like passing is not an easy thing and not something that is always like it's not a 100% solution. There's no 100% solution. So having like critiqued like the whole like idea of passing and like certain passing tips, I think I also have some thoughts about like other responses that I've heard to passing videos and those sorts of lists of passing tips that are out there, and they mostly set around the fact that I think it's kind of easy to, when you've seen a lot of these videos, fall into a sort of attitude of, or suggest an attitude that like well like fuck whatever everyone else thinks, like who cares how you're perceived, just be yourself and that's all that matters at the end of the day, that you're authentic, that you're true to yourself. And I'm like sympathetic to that view on a lot of levels, because I think that if we can divorce ourselves somewhat, as I was saying, from like what people are thinking, like once we recognize that it's not totally under our control, that it can be a powerful thing to focus more on like what do I want to do, and not to force yourself into boxes that feel wrong for you, just because you think they might help you pass. But I think that line of thinking also kind of misrepresents how like identity formation in general works, and like particularly gender identity. I mean, our identities are not something that exist in a vacuum, and I think it's rightful, a lot of people consider it like important, and rightfully so, that their identities are recognized by people around them. I mean, it's just like such an understandable basic need to like have your identity acknowledged, and like to have people address you the right way, especially after so many, like a lot of us like struggle for so long to like figure out exactly how we want to identify, and like or just have to remain closeted for like multiple reasons for so long. We finally come out and we like try actively starting to pass and so on. It can be so devastating for that to just not be acknowledged or recognized at all. So there's that. I just think that pretty much all of our identities, whether we're cis or trans or whatever, like they're not something that we just kind of wake up and decide like I'm a boy or whatever. Like I think our gender identity, our sexual orientation, our gender presentation, all of these things are do probably have. I mean, this is just my opinion. I'm not like a scientist, but I think they probably have some kind of biological basis, whether that's like neurological or hormonal or whatever. I mean, I think that we all have some like pretty strong inclination or proclivity towards what we end up identifying as, but we need like societal messages and interactions to help us understand those, to help us put those into words, to help us sort of, make them into a genuine identity and not just an incidental facet about sort of our wiring, So and you know, these things have been understood in different ways throughout history, gender and sexual orientation and all of those things. So it's not to say that something is unimportant because it's societally mediated. It's just to recognize that we need other people to help us understand who we are. I mean, I know in my own experience, like, you know, when I first started to pass, it was kind of by accident. I basically had started. I had started wearing more male clothing, but it wasn't in an attempt to be perceived differently by anyone else. And I had started binding, but that was mostly to relieve just the physical dysphoria I felt about my own chest. I just felt better when I was binding. So I was like, I was sort of interested to see whether I would pass, but it's not like something that I was actively setting out to do. But I found it strangely, you know, strangely validating and strangely right. It just felt good to be perceived that way. So for me, I mean, I think passing was actually kind of a powerful thing in that, you know, before I was out as trans or whatever, to a lot of the people, even people that I was close to, like, I was being acknowledged in this way by complete strangers. And it was a strangely powerful thing and like a really like important step, I think, as far as me figuring out like how I identify. It was a helpful sort of test. It's just to see like, oh, how do I like interacting with people and like what feels comfortable for me and so on, in a way that I just hadn't had an opportunity to do before, and in a way that felt strangely, you know, strangely safer, easier than you know, than coming out to friends and family and stuff. So that was, I mean, so basically what I'm saying is that like identity is just not like a totally personal thing. It's also a social thing. And I think it'd just be good for us to sort of acknowledge that in a way. Again, not that I'm saying that we should not that it's a bad idea to try to become more independent as far as, you know, your emotions and your reactions to how people are perceiving you. And the second thing that I think that these sorts of responses can sometimes, you know, minimize or just not quite acknowledge is that like passing can sometimes be like a real safety issue for people. I personally haven't had this experience. Like, I've been really lucky to be in the Bay Area. I haven't had any negative reactions here. You know, I had a little bit of negative reactions when I've been elsewhere, but like for some people, this is like a facet of their daily lives. So I think we have to be kind of careful about like, you know, what passing may be to you may not be what passing is to someone else. For other people, it may be just like a way that they actually feel a lot like safer and just like, you know, it just operating. So, so yeah, these are some of my thoughts about passing and how we've been talking about it, but I like totally welcome any sort of comments or thoughts from other folks, and I hope everyone's doing well, and talk to you later. Bye.